Hello everybody, it's me Nate aka Devil Dog, and I'm back with a new video. This is my top 10 most disappointing games of 2019. Now, first of all, before I start this, I gotta let you know what I mean by disappointing is some of these games are still quite playable and still good, but for what you were expecting, either be it what they were promoting the game as or what they said it was going to be like compared to what you received at launch, that's what I'm basing this off of. So they're not necessarily mean that these are really bad games. Some of them are, but they're just so disappointing to me. Something that they could have been so much more, but they just fell flat due to either, maybe the publisher's manipulation with them making the game, budgetary issues, time crunches, or just the fact that maybe they just didn't have enough passion or knew what they were doing with their games. But here it is, my top 10 list on my most disappointing games of 2019. Number 10. Rage 2. This first-person shooter developed by Avalanche Studios and published by Bethesda was a direct sequel to the 2011 game, where this time you play as Walker, a ranger who explores the apocalyptic open world. Now, the only problem with this title is the fact that it didn't really seem to stand out on its own as having its own sort of personality. Everything seemed to be taken from other titles and crammed together with no real originality other than this weird purple hue over everything to try to make it look hip and cool. They did a terrible job with promoting this title, and honestly, with the derivative style of the mission structure being very repeated constantly, and a constant aspect of just driving from one point to another to do these missions over and over again, led to this being a rather boring ass title. You didn't care about the main character. The overall plot, while it did have some gripping moments to it, didn't really have anything that really pulled you in to make you want to keep doing and playing through these missions. The mission structure was abysmal. It was honestly like Avalanche Studios tried to take a little bit of Rage and combine it with the other game that they had made previously, Mad Max, and tried to make this weird hodgepodge. And honestly, I think if they would have had possibly more development time and giving its own personality, its own character instead of this, it would have come off much better as a game if they would have worked on having a lot better mission structure as well. In the end, Rage 2 just came off as just a mediocre title that, while it was better than the first game in just about every aspect, still was highly disappointing with the lead up into it. There was so much promised and so much that was dropped on the ball on this. It could have been such way better game than what it actually ended up being. Number 9. Contra Rogue Corps. This run and gun game developed by and published by Konami, where you get to play as one of 4 over-the-top characters, and it takes place years after Contra 3. Hands down, when I did a review on this, I even said it's not really a bad game, but the price is too high, and the fact of the matter that they call this Contra is the main problem I have with this title. Have you ever heard of a Contra game where your fucking guns overheat and you can't use them? Well, guess what? Let's put it in this title. Yeah, that's fucking stupid. You don't do that in a Contra game. You can even go with the isometric viewpoint. You can go with different viewpoint styles, and the stupid characters can be lived with. But the fact of the overabundance of reuse of the enemies with no originality also made this to be a mediocre title at best. This was nothing more than a low-budget, third-rate game that just had the name of Contra slapped onto it. And that's what makes it so disrespectful to the community and fans of Contra titles of yore. This game, if it stood alone on its own, wouldn't have been a bad budget title. But for the nerve and the audacity of Konami to actually call this a Contra title with the aspects that they put into it, made this a mediocre, pain in the ass, run and gun game that just had so much repeated content in it with no originality and no heart and soul. It lost the aspect of what made itself a Contra game. This is nothing more but a Contra game by name. And I can still say if you have a chance to rent it to play it, go ahead, but don't buy it, because if you're going into it thinking that this is going to be a great epic Contra adventure like you played in the previous titles, you will be gratefully disappointed. This hands down is actually a huge disappointment, and they should have just called it Smash TV. That's what it is. It's more Smash TV than it certainly is not a Contra game. And once again, it's another one where it's a big middle finger from Konami and showing what they think about their fans and their fan base and their game titles. Number 8. Ghost Recon Breakpoint. This online tactical shooter developed and published by Ubisoft took place in an open world called Aurora, where you played as a United States Special Operations Forces member known as Anthony, as he goes around killing bad guys in this giant open world, taking down all kinds of things. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing that pisses me off about this game. This game was built from the ground up with nothing but microtransactions in it. I can look past the day one glitches, though I'm not a fan of whenever they release games that are this buggy at launch. But the fact of the matter is, this game was built from the structure of a money-making scheme. From day one, there were glitches that actually made it to where you could buy your abilities to unlock everything on your character if you had the money. And it wasn't until the outrage of the community when all of a sudden EA decided, oh wait, that's not supposed to, Ubisoft, my bad. I get them confused together because they both do the same damn things. But the fact of the matter is, they had this game designed from day one to just be a money-making machine to get people to go, hey, you don't want to play this game? Don't worry. We have time savers where you can give us more money to skip content. When you're building your game to be so grindy and so annoying with bad AI of enemies, just to force people down the way of going, you know what, I think I'll pay a bunch of extra money just to skip this. You know what, that makes this game to where you just skip this game. And people have been skipping this game in droves for that very reason. And maybe, just maybe, this might be a tipping point for Ubisoft to realize, hey, pull your heads out of your asses and make a good game. Don't make a game like this, because the structured idea of this game is sound, but the way you built it made it a big turd sandwich. You know what, I'm sorry, but Tom Clancy is rolling over in his grave over the fact of what you guys have done with his branding. This is not what you do for a game. This is a steaming pile of horse nuggets, and the fact of the matter is, if this was built from the ground up in a correct fashion with a great structure and good mission structure, instead of the steaming pile of horse nuggets it is with this repetitive bullcrap to force you down the route of just buying microtransactions, I could probably say different about this game. But in the end, this game isn't even worth your time as a friggin' rental. This is an abysmal game, and it didn't have any iota of it even standing a chance at all. Number 7. Wolfenstein Youngblood. Oh yes, this co-op first-person shooter was developed by Machine Games and published by Bethesda, and takes place 20 years after the New Colossus, where you get to play as Jesse and Sophia. If that's their names, I don't care. Two annoyingly stupid-ass characters that are supposed to be hip and cool and awesome. You know what people think when they get a Wolfenstein game? Yeah, let's shoehorn in some two-player co-op action. Nobody likes that, because it was designed flawed from the start. All they did was make all the enemies massive bullet sponges, and the only real aspects of bringing the two-player part in is having parts where you need both players to open doors or press keypads. This, hands down, is not a correct way to make a sequel or a spin-off in any way whatsoever. You know, honestly, people love the run and gun and action of the Wolfenstein series, and the last couple ones were great, but this one they fell flat with their idea of trying to make these cool characters. No one gives a rat's ass about these characters. They were annoying and stupid, and the shoehorning in of two-player co-op action did not help this game. It's what actually destroyed it. Please, Machine Games, go back to what made the other ones great. Go back to single player. Number 6. NBA 2K20. This basketball game, developed by Visual Concepts and published by 2K, is in fact a decent basketball game if you can get past the overall grind fest that this turd sandwich is. This game is built from the ground up to prey off of people who are gullible enough to pay not only full price for pretty much the same game with just the update in stats and roster with some slight tweaks to some other modes as well, but the main problem that this game came down to in making my list is the fact that it was the thing that brought on the great ESRB effort of the fact they rated this E for everyone, even though they have so many different little things in it that are nothing more than gambling mechanics. They say it's not gambling mechanics because you're not paying real money to actually play these games. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It's still gambling mechanics, and they never even talk about the fact that people paying top money to buy these stupid ass card packs to unlock characters that are already in the damn game. This is a disgrace. This is the disgrace of what these games have become, and the fact that anyone picks up and play these nowadays and doesn't realize they're being scammed from the start is what makes this game on my list. This is a steaming pile of shit, and I'm so tired of these companies doing this. Just make your damn game with the content in it. Number 5. Dollhouse. This horror title, developed by Krasin Studios and published by Sodesco, has you playing as Marie, a detective trying to unravel her dark, demented past. Now, it has a 1950s style noir aspect to it, which is good, but this is not how you make a horror title. This is something like you would see on a mobile games in terms of how garbage this is. Everything about this game just screams low budget, no budget, cash grab. At least I can say there's no real microtransactions and those pay to win things in this title, but this game is such a boring ass title that came out of nowhere. Honestly, it's just depressing to try to play this title. It's just disturbing the fact that they think that this is scary. This is not how you make a horror title, and while it does have a nice aspect with the 1950s style noir style, it just does not make this game worthwhile to play even if it was free. Hands down, stay away from this. This game is a steaming pile of horse garbage. I was so disappointed with this. The only thing I can say is thank God they didn't promote it. If they might have promoted this, then it would probably make it a little bit higher on my list instead of making it where it's at now. This is not how you make a horror game at all. Number 4. Left Alive. This stealth title, developed by Elks, I think it is, and published by Square Enix, has you playing as multiple different characters in this very odd title. This game came off as being something spectacular in the terms of it being almost like a Metal Gear Solid meets a mecha robot style game where you get to go around, do all kinds of neat stealth, and then get in these giant mech robots and go around and destroying stuff. But the fact of the matter is, everything about this is so low budget and so poorly done. It's not a fun game to play. The stealth elements are poorly done. The mech elements, the control of them are terrible. The movement of them is terrible. Everything about this game is just a big disappointment. And that's why it made my list. I am really shocked over the fact that, first of all, they didn't really promote this title, and I think I know why. I think Square Enix realized they knew that it wasn't going to be a good title, and they decided, you know what, we're not really going to promote it, we're going to save our money for other games, because in the end, this might be worth a little chuckle or two if you pick it up as a rental to try it out, but I can honestly say Left Alive is a very depressing game in terms of just overall how crappy it plays. It plays worse than an early year PlayStation 2 game, and the mech combat is so crappy. Everything about this screamed like it could have been a hit, but it just fell flat. Number 3. WWE 2K20. This game, developed by Visual Concepts and published by 2K, was once a long time ago one of the epic staples of wrestling games. It used to be great, but pretty much what had happened is they had lost a contract with Ukes. Ukes went on to make their own wrestling game, so it made it to where they did not have the same team behind this. And since WWE requires they come out with a game each year, they slapdash this turd sandwich together, and it shows. Not only are the graphics way worse on the character models and everything than previous versions in this series, but it suffered some of the most messed up glitches in history for a game. There's so many YouTube channels that are dedicated just to the glitches of this game, and that says something. And not only that, but much fitting, the main story mode is so god-awful in terms of the story and the voice acting. It is so cringeworthy, and the graphics are so bad, you just don't want to play this title unless it's a friggin' joke. I mean, not only that, it actually suffered from the Y2K virus. This actually suffered from the 2020 virus, that when it hit 2020, this game couldn't even play until they released an emergency update patch because it was so broken. Even in its current state, this is by far one of the worst wrestling games they have ever made, and I long for the days when they go back to, SmackDown, Show the Pain or whatever it was called, a good wrestling game, because this is not how you make a good wrestling game. The controls are archaic as hell, the graphics are terrible, and the only thing good about this is all the different glitches you can get while playing this game, even now with the current updated patches. This by far is a damn train wreck and not the correct way to make a game. It's such a disappointment. I used to love these games, the Bring the Pain game especially, and this is not how you do a wrestling game. This is how you do a damn nightmare game. Number 2. Fallout 76. Developed and published by Bethesda, this game is just a gift that keeps on giving. From the fact of the matter that they built it off of a single-player game engine that is so archaic it can't even handle single-player, and tried to turn it into a slightly fake MMORPG where they say you can't even have any sort of aspects of story characters. Hello, have you ever played Final Fantasy Online? Yes, this game has been nothing but problems from the beginning, and is still going today with nothing but problems. Everything from stolen assets, everything from your data being stolen, to hackers stealing all your stuff, and the fact they still can't make this game work, and the fact that here in the future they're actually coming out with their first ever expansion, the Wastelanders, that's supposed to add NPCs that should have been in the game in the first place. I can't wait to see how badly this game fucks up when they try to install their first actual expansion. This is not how you make a game. The most ultimate of turd sandwiches out there. Fallout 76 is the gift that keeps on giving in pain and suffering. God, this game sucks! Number 1. Anthem. Developed by BioWare and published by EA, this is the way to show how not to make a game. The reason why it made my list, like most of these games, some of them are actually pretty decent and playable, is because it's so disappointing what this could have been. And if you watched the thing on Kotaku, you've seen the behind the scenes footage of what they call BioWare magic, of how they force people to crunch. Hell, they didn't even really start making this game until less than 6 months before it was actually released. They didn't even know what game they were making when they first started this title. And the flying aspect, the one and only saving grace of it, was actually shoehorned in after one of the guys actually liked it. That's the reason why it was put in. This game has seen so much of a rocky turmoil from start to where it's even gotten now. I'm surprised there's even anyone that still plays this game. This is not how you make a looter shooter at all. You have a looter, but a looter shooter, but no loot. And the only time you get loot is when there's a glitch, and they can fix that real fast, but they damn sure can't fix this game. And this is by far why I am ranking friggin' Anthem as my most disappointing game of 2019. This game had such high hopes, it had a great premise to it, and it just fell flat on every single mark in the book. Like I said, not all of them were bad games, but they were so disappointing. For the fact of what you thought you might have been getting, and when you finally got the release version, you're like, what is this? I paid money for this shit! And that's why I put them on my top 10 list of disappointing games. Like I said, if you're a fan of one of these games, that's fine. Once again, I always have to say this. If you're enjoying a game, then that's what makes it worthwhile, as long as you're getting your money's worth out of the title. But this was my top 10 list of games that I felt I was so deeply disappointed in when they actually released these, that it just made me scratch my head and go, what is going on, people? What is going on? Leave in the comments below what your top 10 worst or disappointing games of 2019 was. Hit the bell icon to stay updated whenever I release any new videos. Hit the thumbs up if you like this video. Please leave in the comments below if you agree or disagree with what I picked as the top 10. And remember, I always end my videos by saying, have fun, play hard, and remember, people, the devil is in the details. Peace out until next time.